Question. A person drives 120 kilometers north 32 degrees toward west in a car to a friend's place to visit, and then drives 150 kilometers west 24 degrees toward north to visit family. Determine the total displacement of the trip. Let's review some knowledge of trigonometry. This is a right triangle, and this side is its hypotenuse. This angle is theta, and this side is opposite to theta, and this side is adjacent to theta. Now we know that sin theta equals opposite side over hypotenuse. Then opposite side equals hypotenuse multiply sin theta, and cosine theta equals the adjacent over hypotenuse. Then adjacent equals hypotenuse multiply cosine theta, and also tangent theta equals the opposite side over the adjacent side. Then theta equals arctangent opposite over adjacent side. Now we go back to the question. We define this is north, and this is south, this is east, this is west. We define north as positive y direction, east as positive x direction, and south as negative y direction, and west as negative x direction. Now for vector, delta d1, this vector is 120 kilometers. Now the direction is north 32 degrees toward west. For this vector, I draw the graph. This is north, positive y direction, and this is west, negative x direction. Now, the direction of vector delta d1 is north 32 degrees toward west, so it should be here. This is the vector delta d1. Now this vector is delta d1y, and this vector is delta d1x. This is a right angle. This angle is just 32 degrees. From the graph, we know that the magnitude of delta d1x just equals the magnitude of delta d1 multiply sine 32 degrees. And this equals the magnitude of delta d1 is 120 multiply sine 32 degrees and equals 63.59 kilometers. So vector delta d1x is just negative 63.59 kilometers. It's negative because its direction is the negative x direction. Now we also know that the magnitude of vector delta d1y just equals the magnitude of vector delta d1 multiply cosine 32 degrees, and this equals 120 multiply cosine 32 degrees, and this equals 101.77 kilometers. The vector delta d1y just equals 101.77 kilometers. It's positive because its direction is the positive y direction. Now, for vector delta d2, this vector is 150 kilometers. The direction is west, 24 degrees toward north. I draw the graph. This direction is west, also negative x, and this direction is north, also positive y. And the direction of vector delta d2 is west, 24 degrees toward north. It should be like this. This is the vector delta d2. And this angle is 24 degrees. This vector is delta d2x. And this vector is delta d2y. And from the graph, we can know that the magnitude of delta d2x just equals the magnitude of delta d2 multiply cosine 24 degrees, and this equals 150 multiply cosine 24 degrees, and this equals 137.03 kilometers. So vector delta d2x just is negative 137.03 kilometers. It's negative because its direction is negative x direction. Then the magnitude of delta d2y just equals the magnitude of delta d2 multiply sine 24 degrees, and this equals 150 multiply sine 24 degrees, and this equals 61.01 kilometers. Then the vector delta d2y is just 61.01 kilometers. It's positive because its direction is the positive y direction. Now we can get that the vector delta dx just equals the vector delta dy(x) plus the vector delta d2x. And this equals negative 63.59 plus negative 137.03. And this equals negative 200.62 kilometers. Then the vector delta dy just equals the vector delta d1y plus the vector delta d2y. And this equals 101.77 plus 61.01 equals 162.78 kilometers. Now I draw the graph. This vector is just delta dx. And this vector is just delta dy. And this vector is just delta d. And this angle is theta. This angle is a right angle. So from the graph, we can know that the magnitude of delta d just equals square root, and the magnitude of delta dx square plus the magnitude of delta dy square, and this equals square root 200.62 square plus 162.78 square, and this equals 258.35 kilometers. And angle theta equals arc tan. The magnitude of delta dy over the magnitude of delta dx, and just equals arc tan is 162.78 over 200.62, and equals theta is 39.06 degree. Now we know that the total displacement delta d is just 258.35 kilometers, and the direction is west 39.06 degree toward north, because this direction is west and this direction is north.